What's going on, guys and gals? Travis from AmericanTrucks.com, and today I'm going to show you how to quickly and affordably squeeze some extra horsepower and torque out from underneath the hood of your 2014 to 2018 5.3 liter powered Silverado or Sierra. I'm talking about a fancy little preloaded tuner like this guy. This is SCT's new BDX tuner. Comes in at around the $400 price point, and it's currently the most affordable option that includes a preloaded tune that's actually customizable. I'll touch on that in a little bit, but even better, it can store up to 10 custom tunes. But I do have to say, guys, even the preloaded tune that you get on this device is incredibly effective. We actually went ahead and we ran our truck on the Dyno stock to pull some baseline numbers. We ended up making 260 horsepower and 288 pound-feet of torque. Those numbers might seem a little bit low. That's because we have some aftermarket wheels and tires out back. But we went ahead and we threw the preloaded tune on this guy. All we had to do was update our fuel octane setting from 87 to 93. We left everything else the same, and we went ahead and we ran it again. And we ended up making 284 horsepower and 319 pound-feet of torque. That makes for some pretty respectable peak gains of 24 horsepower and 31 pound-feet of torque. But if you take a second look at that graph, you'll notice we see very consistent and very large curve gains all the way from idle to pretty much redline. In fact, our curve gains top out at plus 30 horsepower and plus 45 pound-feet of torque, and again, it stays pretty consistent across the curve. Guys, chasing that kind of power without a tune, you'd really be turning some wrenches under the hood for quite a while, whereas you can do it with this guy in a couple minutes by pressing a couple of buttons. Getting your tune installed and really getting the device updated and working only takes about 15 minutes. If you're not familiar with this kind of stuff, guys, it's incredibly user-friendly, and I'm actually going to walk you through the entire thing step by step. So for that reason, I'm going to go ahead and give the install, or rather I should say the use of this thing, a very simple 1 out of 3 wrenches on the old difficulty meter. If you're a first timer, you're not very familiar with this kind of technology, not to worry, it's very user-friendly. So again, if you're looking for one of the most affordable preloaded tunes that also allows you to store custom tunes and even tune your truck wirelessly, so to speak, then SCT's got you covered with their very cool BDX tuner. Go ahead and check it out more if you decide to stick with this option over any of the other ones. You can come back in just a second. I'm going to show you guys how to get this thing updated and tune your truck, and then I'm going to walk you through the complete setup and all the other applications step by step. Okay, so really all you have to do is pull the tuner out of the box, grab the data cable, plug the HDMI end into the port on the tuner, and then route the cable underneath the steering column and plug it into the OBD2 port. Once you've done that, go ahead and get situated, put your key in the ignition, and turn it to the on position. First thing we're going to do is going over how to actually tune our truck, and in order to do that, you want to select Program Vehicle. We're going to be using the navigation buttons down here on the bottom, up and down, left and right, and our center button for enter or exit. And it's going to give you this little prompt letting you know you do need the key in the on position, which we already do, so we're going to click Continue. Now, if this is the first time using the BDX, it will prompt you to connect to Wi-Fi. That way it can provide updates to the device, including for the preloaded tune files, so go ahead and click Continue. It's going to bring you to the Wi-Fi scanning screen here while it scans for different connections. Then we'll find the appropriate connection and we'll connect to it. It's the same thing as any smart device, whether it's Android or iOS. You just need to find the appropriate Wi-Fi connection, click enter, and then you have to enter the appropriate pass key. Now, unfortunately, I can't show you guys this part, so let's go ahead and enter that, and then we'll continue. Okay, quick jump cut there, guys. Sorry, I had to keep that secret, but now we're downloading all the necessary files that we need in order to update the BDX tuner itself, as well as our preloaded tune files. You can see we have a ton of updates here. SCT is pretty on point with that stuff. So just go ahead and let this run for a minute. This does take a minute or two, so you want to make sure your battery voltage is good as well. You don't want to lose your connection during the update process. Okay, all of our files have been updated. It should give you this little congratulations screen. Go ahead and click OK to continue. And now that we have some of our files downloaded, it's going to process some of that information and apply some of those updates to the device itself. We'll just have to wait another moment while this completes. Okay, so our firmware updates have now been applied. Let's go ahead and click Continue one more time. Now, Cloud Sync is only necessary if you're downloading specific preloaded tuning files or other files that you've already had created. We don't care about that right now, so let's go ahead and click Skip. And this is just a legal disclaimer here. While we're on this screen, something to take note of. After you do tune your truck, if you ever want to untune it, put it back to stock, simply select the Upload Stock option here. from the program vehicle page. But obviously we're not doing that right now. We're going to install our tune, so we're going to click continue, make sure our key's in the ignition, and click continue again. Okay, so now we have our home screen for our available tunes. You can see here we have our available custom tunes, which is where if you synced your device and had a custom tune available, it would install and display there. But obviously we're working with our preloaded tunes today on our Silverado, so we're going to select the appropriate truck and go ahead and select it one more time for the appropriate transmission tune and click continue. Now there's a bunch of options that you can actually update in the preloaded tune file as well, and we actually have to make a modification to one of these in order to actually get our performance upgrades here, if you will. We have to update our fuel octane from 87 to 93. You can go with 91 if you want to, if 93 is not available in your area. But basically what happens is once you select the new octane rating, the device and the preloaded tune file will actually adjust air and fuel and timing automatically based on that input. While you're here, you can also make some different changes here. You can set what your idle is in drive and in park when you're actually driving around. You can actually make advances to timing yourself as well as to spark. You can also make changes to things like your axle ratio if you've installed new gears. You can change your speed limiter. There's a bunch of different options in here that you can make changes to. Again, we're only interested in what the preloaded tune can do for us based on our fuel. So we're just going to skip all that for now and hit approve. It's going to ask that you confirm all the changes that you've elected before we continue. You can see we have our 93 octane selected. Everything else looks good, so click continue again. Now at this point, the BDX is going to begin communicating with the truck. So what it's going to do first is it's going to save a kind of a screenshot, if you will, of the current file that is installed, our kind of stock tune file, if you will. That's what's going to be used if you ever revert your truck back to stock. So once you begin this process and you actually begin communicating with the truck, it's very important that you don't unplug the device at any point. You also don't want to turn off the key in the ignition. That'll terminate the connection and it'll interrupt the tuning process. All right, our stock tune file has now been saved. Now the device is going to do a little bit more processing here as it builds the preloaded tune file. And it looks like it's going to do a little bit more with saving our stock file. Okay, now the BDX has finalized our tune with the changes we've made, obviously being our octane rating, and now it's writing our tune for installation. Okay, our tune file has successfully installed. Now it's going to prompt you to cycle the ignition off. Go ahead and do so and click continue. And once it's finished powering down the vehicle, it'll give you this little programming complete screen letting you know that your tune has been successfully installed. That's really all there is to tuning your truck. At this point, you can turn the motor over, go take it out for a drive. And then again, if you ever do want to go back to a factory tune, simply come back in here. You can skip all this stuff and go back to return to stock here on the program vehicle street use notice page. If you guys want to stick around here, I'm going to show you all the other functions on the BDX. Next up are the real-time gauges that we can monitor while we're driving around, as well as our ability to data log our truck. And in order to configure our gauges and our data log application here, we're going to click continue again with the key in the on position. And if this is our first time setting up for data logging, it's going to ask that we select the appropriate vehicle. And obviously we are working with our Silverado today, so let's go ahead and find the appropriate PCM configuration. Looks like we're going to be working with a GM gasoline. So go ahead and highlight that configuration, hit the right arrow to select continue. All right, now this is the home screen for our real-time gauges. We'll go over our gauges first before we go over data logging here. So if you want to make changes to the layout or the configuration of the gauge screen, it's pretty simple. All you need to do is select one of the up or down arrow keys, and you can actually highlight the individual gauges that are being displayed. By default, it'll display our vehicle speed and our engine RPM. So let's make a change to vehicle speed by hitting the enter button. Bring you to the individual gauge home screen here. You can see the item being displayed and the unit that it's being measured in. And this is going to apply to all the available gauges. So if you want to change what we're being displayed here, select item and click continue. You can see here it has our default gauge up here, vehicle speed. If we want to select a different gauge, it's pretty simple. You just navigate through all the available options and select the appropriate gauge you want to monitor. There are definitely a ton of options in here, too many for us to go over, but just as an example, let's select our intake air temperature. Now you can see intake air temp is displayed next to unit, and we want to display this in Fahrenheit instead of Celsius. So that's how you change the unit of display. And again, click the right button here to approve. Click the center button to OK it. And now you have our intake air temp. It's displaying a current value here in real time of 111 degrees. And again, same process if you want to change any of the other gauges themselves. Now, if you want to begin data logging, or if you want to actually change the layout of the gauge screen, pretty simply, you want to press the right arrow, and that's going to bring you to all the different menus and functions for this screen. If you want to start recording your data log, you can simply press the OK button there, and you can see we have this nice little recording icon in the middle. So once you have that recording icon in the middle and you actually turn your truck over and start driving around, the BDX is going to log and record all of the information that the PCM is also monitoring. So it's going to record all your values for intake air temp, it's going to record all your values for engine RPM, it's going to also record all the data being provided from all those other values in the back end here on our available gauges. Now when you're done data logging, pretty simple. Go ahead and click Stop Data Log. It's going to bring you to the home screen, but it's going to automatically save that run file on the device. It's not going to give any prompts or notifications letting you know, but you can pull that data log file using the SCT software on your desktop using the provided USB cable. If you do find yourself running into problems with your data log files, you might want to troubleshoot if you have the correct configuration, in which case you would hit select data log file, and then you can select the appropriate configuration here. So let's go ahead and back out, and in order to change the gauge layout screen, it's pretty simple. You want to hit select gauge layout, and you'll see all the available layouts that you can choose from here. I believe you can view up to 8 different gauges at one time, and you can see here they are displayed in a landscape orientation, so you'd want to find a way to mount your device to display that, but there are a bunch of different configurations. Also keep note here, when you go into landscape mode, it's also going to change the orientation of the buttons themselves. So let's go ahead and select a different gauge layout where we're back to vertical here. And you can see you can actually have 8 gauges here in a vertical orientation, so that's pretty nice. The device will also display the last known values that you've recorded, and it'll display minimum and maximum values in your data log file. So if you want to reset that while you're viewing your device, simply hit reset. It'll bring those values back to default. So let's go ahead and back out of here. So we have our new gauge layout here. You see we have our vertical orientation instead. Now if you want to exit out of the gauge cluster screen, you actually have to click on the right arrow to get to our menu. And if you hit stop data log once again, it'll bring you back to the home screen. You don't actually have to have a data log file running to do that, but that's how you get back to the home screen from the gauge cluster screen. Next option up is our vehicle functions. This is also pretty useful. This allows you to read and clear diagnostic trouble codes, also known as check engine lights. So let's say you're driving around, you get a check engine light, you get a rough idle or something like that. You can actually come in here and select read DTC codes. Obviously you have to make sure the key's in the on position and click continue. And if you do have a check engine light or any other dash lights, the BDX will communicate with the PCM and it'll display an alphanumeric code that corresponds with the underlying issue. It'll usually be something like P001 or whatever, but once you have that alphanumeric code, you can actually pop that in on the internet and you'll most likely be able to find what the underlying cause is so you can fix it. It's a nice way to save a little bit of cash as opposed to going to the dealership or your local shop. And then if you want to clear that code, whether or not you fix the underlying issue, pretty simple, select clear DTCs and click continue, and it'll clear those codes from the dash. Just keep in mind if you don't actually correct the underlying problem, that dash light might return. Now we also have special functions here. You're not ever really going to come in here for any particular reason, but I want to show you guys what's in here just so you're not curious. You have to go through all of these different update options here. We can skip those for now. but it's going to bring you to the vehicle functions home screen here. Crank relearn, that's not something you'll ever touch. That's something that a shop would likely use after performing some engine work. Not going to get into the details on that. If you know what a crank relearn is, I don't need to explain it to you. If you're not sure what it is, not anything to bother with. It doesn't relate to performance or tuning or diagnostics or anything like that. You also have your tire pressure monitor system in here, and you can actually adjust this function from this screen. You can actually adjust what the cutoffs are for tire PSI for your TPMS to give you faults. So you can actually input a TPMS value between 1 and 120, and then if your tire pressure ever falls below that value, you'll get a dash light letting you know. So we're just going to put in 35. That was interesting, but once you put that in, the horn will honk for some reason, letting you know that you've correctly input the TPMS threshold, and you'll get a successful change notification, and then you can click exit, and it should bring you back to our home screen. It's going to bring us back to the vehicle functions page instead, but you can go ahead and click exit and click exit one more time. That's going to bring us back to the home screen here. So those are the three primary applications on the BDX tuner: the ability to tune your truck, the ability to monitor and data log in real time, and the ability to read and clear diagnostic trouble codes, as well as the ability to set the threshold on your TPMS. You can also pull some basic vehicle information from the BDX. This is very useful, especially if you're doing custom tuning or diagnostics. You just have to make sure the key's in the on position once again. Click through those disclaimer screens. It'll show your VIN as well as your current operating system, ECM firmware version. You also have some other pertinent information in here related to custom tuning. You can find your strategy in here. You can also find the serial number for the device at the bottom here. And that's going to apply to device info as well. You can see we have some of our basic tuning information, serial number for the device, firmware version, as well as our preloaded tuning, custom tuning support statuses, and if we are married to a vehicle and how many unlocks we have left. This is actually pretty important here. You can only use this device on one truck at a time. Once you custom tune a vehicle, the BDX will be locked to that vehicle. You can't actually plug it into any other vehicle and use it. In order to use it on a different truck, you have to convert the existing truck back to stock. That's going to leave the paired status as unpaired, and then you have unlocks that are going to get used up as you pair it with a new vehicle. And then lastly, we have our device settings here. You can make some basic changes to the audio and video on the device. You can also check for updates through here by clicking on check for updates. It'll do it automatically. You can cloud sync if you have custom tune files to download. And if you want to, you can actually upload your data log files to the cloud. Very convenient if you're working with a speed shop or a custom tuning vendor. You have your Wi-Fi settings here. We've already gone over that, but again, same process. Simply select Wi-Fi. It'll scan for the available connections, and you would connect with the appropriate passkey. You can also change the brightness on the screen for day and nighttime driving. You can configure the orientation of the screen from vertical or portrait here. You can actually change the theme. They provide some different color options. And power management mode, you can leave that on automatic. That will allow the BDX to turn on and off with the truck and the key being in the ignition, whether it's on or off. You can turn the audio on and off on the device as well if you don't like those little beeps and notifications. You can also turn the startup function to a particular screen or menu. You can have it go to the gauges automatically, or you can have it go to the home screen automatically. But the most important function is our factory reset. Factory reset will completely undo any changes or modifications you've made to the device. It'll flash it back to stock. It'll remove any files you've installed. It'll clear out your data log files, and it'll also undo any changes you've made to things like TPMS or vehicle weight rating or things like that. The only thing factory reset will not do is untune your truck and unpair the device. You do have to go back into program vehicle in order to do that, but again, if you want to clear out everything else you've done besides the tune, factory reset is a simple once and done. And that covers all of the device settings. It also covers all of our vehicle functions, as well as all of our applications on the BDX. All right, guys, so as you saw, tuning your truck really only takes a couple minutes, and getting this thing completely set up is just as simple. That'll wrap up my quick little review and kind of install, if you will, of SCT's new BDX tuner, fitting your 2014 to 2018 5.3 liter powered Silverado or Sierra. Be sure to check it out more on the site, and for all things Chevy and GMC, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.